It was a cool evening when Mr. Williams, the old security guard of Royal Estate conglomerate, was closing from work. The air was sharp with the bite of wind, whistling as if the city itself was breathing secrets. The compound was empty now. Only his footsteps echoed against the tiled floors. He was always the last to leave and the first to arrive. At 60, his punctuality was unmatched, his discipline unquestionable. People respected him, greeted him warmly, and he greeted them back with his usual polite smile. That Saturday seemed like every other. Routine, predictable, safe. But destiny does not announce itself. He locked the main doors, checked the alarm twice, tugged at the padlock until he was satisfied, then adjusted his cap and stepped out. He was halfway down the path when he froze. A sound carried across the parking lot. At first it was faint, muffled, like a cat's mule carried on the wind. He frowned, probably a stray. But then it came again. Louder this time, high-pitched, piercing. It wasn't a cat. It was unmistakably the desperate wail of a newborn. Mr. Williams stopped, his heartbeat stumbling. He turned slowly, scanning the dim parking lot. At the far end, half hidden in the shadows, was a carton. Ordinary, except that from within it came the raw cries of life. His soldier instincts made him cautious. He approached carefully, step after step, until he reached the carton and bent over. His hands trembled as he peeled back the top. His breath caught in his throat. A baby. A tiny baby wrapped in nothing but a thin cloth, her face red from crying, her fists punching the air as though battling the cruelty of the world. Mr. Williams staggered back, his mouth dry. Who could have abandoned a child here? In the cold wind, in the night, in a carton. Terror gripped him, not the kind that comes with bullets and war. He had faced that before. This was a different terror, a helpless life thrust upon him without warning. Yet as the child's cries rose higher, he felt something inside his chest squeeze painfully. He bent down again, scooped up the carton, and cradled the baby against his chest. Almost immediately her cries softened, as if she knew safety had found her. "This cannot be real," he whispered, his throat thick. "What am I supposed to do with you?" His legs moved on their own, carrying him through the streets straight to the nearest police station. He marched in with the carton like a soldier carrying evidence from a battlefield. "Officer, please," he began, his voice urgent. "I just found this baby abandoned near my office." The officer at the desk barely looked up. He asked Mr. Williams to write a statement, which he did quickly, his hands shaking. When he was done, he pushed the carton toward the officer. Relief rushed through him. It was no longer his responsibility, but the officer pushed the carton back to him with a shrug. "Olga, carry the baby and go. You can't leave her here." Mr. Williams blinked. "What? Officer, no. This is not my baby. I found her." "This place is not an orphanage," the officer interrupted lazily. "Once we get information on the mother, we'll contact you. But for now, carry your baby and go." Mr. Williams's knees nearly gave way. He stood frozen, the baby's cries filling the station. Nobody else paid attention. The world had just handed him a burden he had no training for, no preparation for. He left the police station with shaking steps and made his way to the nearest orphanage. Surely, they would take the child. But when the matron looked inside the carton, she sighed heavily and shook her head. "We cannot admit another baby. We are already overwhelmed. More than enough mouths we cannot feed, hands we cannot manage. We cannot take her." "Please," Mr. Williams begged. "She was abandoned. She will die if—" The matron lifted a hand. "I am sorry. Take her home. Perhaps in a few months, when space opens, we can call you." Rain began to fall as he stepped outside, fat drops splashing against his face. He stood under a shed, soaked, the baby pressed against his chest, her cries blending with the sound of the storm. He looked down at her fragile face and felt his chest ache. He could not abandon her again, not after fate had placed her in his arms. His wife was long gone, and they had never been blessed with children. Perhaps this was God's way of giving him one. He carried her home, but home brought new terror. The baby cried nonstop, her wails cutting through his walls. Mr. Williams paced the room helplessly, his hands trembling as he tried to rock her. Nothing worked. He whispered nonsense, sang songs he didn't remember the words to, begged her to stop. Nothing. She cried harder. Desperation drove him to his neighbor's door. The young mother, still nursing her own child, opened the door and gasped when she saw him holding the wailing infant. "Papa Willie, whose baby is this?" he explained, his words tumbling over each other. How he found her, how the police rejected her, how the orphanage turned them away, how he didn't know what to do. Her eyes widened. "And you brought her here? To your house?" "Yes, please, she is hungry. Help me." She hesitated. "Mr. Williams, I can't just feed a strange baby." But Mr. Williams was a good man. Everybody in the neighborhood knew it. A retired soldier who carried himself with dignity, who treated everyone with kindness. The woman looked at his desperate face, at the child gasping for air through her cries, and her heart softened. She took the baby, prepared a bottle of formula, and placed it gently in the child's mouth. The baby latched instantly, drinking greedily as though she had been waiting for this moment all her life. Within minutes, she was asleep in the woman's arms. The woman looked down at her, her face shadowed with sadness. Who could abandon a child like this? She handed the baby back to Mr. Williams. "So what will you do now? Police have rejected her. Orphanage has no space. Are you going to keep her?" Mr. Williams stared at the tiny face, his throat tight. "I will try. Today is Saturday. By Monday, I will check other orphanages. But until then, I will need your help. Teach me how to feed her, how to bathe her." She nodded slowly. The next day she came by, guiding his clumsy hands through the delicate rituals of baby care. He learned how to bathe her without drowning her, how to change her diapers without gagging, how to rock her just right until she fell asleep. He stumbled, sweated, cursed under his breath, but he learned. Monday came. He took time off work, the first time in his life, and rushed back to the police. "Any new?" he asked. "None." He begged them to take the child. They refused. He tried another orphanage. They said no. Another. They said no. There was a pandemic of abandoned babies, they told him. Resources were gone, and so with no other choice, Mr. Williams adopted her in his heart. He named her Princess. At 61, he became a father. He strapped her to his chest with a baby carrier as he marched to work. He left her at daycare, checked on her at lunch, picked her up at closing. He woke at midnight to soothe her fevers. He worked extra shifts to buy her clothes, lessons, food. People whispered, stared. Where did the old man get a baby? Where was the mother? But Mr. Williams kept his lips sealed. Princess was his child now. That was all anyone needed to know. She grew under his care, her life wrapped in his sacrifices. Her uniforms were always clean, her lunchboxes always full. He hired extra teachers even when it meant taking estate jobs at night. He pumped her full of love, words of affirmation, hope. When classmates mocked her, "Your father is old, you don't have a mother," she cried to him. "Who said that?" he asked, fire in his eyes. Then he pulled her close. "Listen to me. Your father is not old. Your father is a soldier. A soldier never grows old. If they bully you again, tell them your daddy will mobilize the entire army to their house. And never forget, you are my princess." Her tears dried. Her confidence bloomed. She grew tall, bold, beautiful. But education was expensive. When university came, Mr. Williams realized he could not afford her admission fees. His pension was unreliable. Sometimes it came late, sometimes not at all. He looked at his properties, those lands he had bought with his late wife in their youth, and he made his decision. He sold them all. "She is my daughter," he told himself. "What else is money for, if not for her?" Princess lived well. She had her own flat, her own comforts. She wore the best clothes, ate the best meals. To the world, she looked like the daughter of a wealthy man. Only Mr. Williams knew the sweat and pain behind it. He worked himself into the ground, his back bent, his knees aching, but he kept going. Years passed. She graduated. She found love. She married a handsome young man. On her wedding day, Mr. Williams danced like a madman. He twirled his abaya around, his laughter loud, his voice breaking with pride. "My daughter is married. My princess is now a married woman." He sold the last piece of land in his name to fund the wedding. When it was over, he pressed the balance of the money into her hands. "My daughter, take this. Use it to support your family. This is the last property I have apart from this house. Everything else I have is yours." Princess wept, hugging him tight. Her husband bowed, thanking him. Mr. Williams smiled, though deep inside he felt the weight of finality. He had given everything: his youth, his savings, his lands, his life. But he was content. His princess would never lack. That was all that mattered. It's been years since Princess got married. Mr. Williams hadn't stopped talking about the wedding, about how he twirled his abata like a young man and danced with the madness of pure joy. His neighbors still teased him about how he almost dislocated his waist that day. "Old soldier, you go break your bono," they laughed, but he didn't care. That wedding was the peak of his joy, the day his daughter became a woman. He had sold the last piece of land he owned to sponsor it, and he told himself it was worth every naira. But reality, the kind of reality that creeps in silently like a thief in the night, soon came knocking. Mr. Williams was now in his 80s. The years were no longer kind to him. His knees were weaker, bending like bamboo under the weight of his body. His once sharp soldier's eyes had grown dull and misty. His hearing was slower, and his steps were no longer firm like the commander he once was. He could no longer sweep his small one-room apartment as he used to, no longer bend to scrub the bathroom floor. Carrying buckets of water felt like carrying the weight of the world. But despite his frailty, Mr. Williams still woke up each morning, bathed, dressed neatly in his worn but always ironed shirt, and went to work. Even at 80, he was still showing up at Royal Conglomerate as a security man. He didn't want to be a burden to Princess. No, he had vowed long ago that she would never know the pain of lacking as long as he still had breath. He endured his aching bones, the mocking whispers of younger guards who sometimes offered to help him lock the gates at night. He endured it all because the thought of sitting idle at home terrified him more than death itself. Then one morning the inevitable came. His employer called him into the office. The manager cleared his throat, looking uneasy. "Papa Williams," he said softly, almost with pity. "You know we respect you. You've served us faithfully. In fact, you have worked with us longer than the company ever allowed. But it's time. You need to rest now. We think it's best for you to retire." The words pierced through Mr. Williams like a blade. He had known this day was coming, but still, hearing it out loud felt like a final verdict. He nodded quietly, hiding the storm raging inside him. "I understand," he said. His voice didn't crack, but his heart did. He packed up his old torchlight, his whistle, and his worn cap, and walked home with heavy steps. Retirement meant no more salary. And his pension? That was a story of its own. It came late, and sometimes it didn't come at all. Even when it came, it was barely enough to buy food, let alone medicine. That same week, as if fate was conspiring against him, Princess came home crying. Her belly was heavy with pregnancy, her eyes swollen with tears. "Daddy," she wailed as soon as she saw him, "they sacked my husband from work." Mr. Williams froze. "Sacked? What happened? Did he offend anyone?" "No, Daddy," she sobbed. "They said it's the economy. They said they can't keep paying junior staff, so they laid him off. Daddy, we are hungry. Daddy, I haven't even eaten good food for 1 week. Daddy, I don't know what to do. Help me." She fell into his arms like a child, her big belly pressing against him, her tears soaking his shirt. Mr. Williams's heart clenched. He looked around his small home. The walls, though cracked, held years of memories. He had already sold all his lands to give her the best education, the finest wedding. Only this house remained, the house he and his wife had built together with their sweat and savings during his military years. The house was his last fortress, the last symbol of his youth, his pride. But looking at Princess's tear-stained face, his decision was clear. He kept quiet for a long time, then placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, my angel. No more tears. Daddy will fix this. Go home. I will take care of it." That very week, he went to his old military friend, Emeka, and told him he wanted to sell the house. Emeka's eyes widened in horror. "Willie, are you mad? You want to sell this house? The only thing left from all your years in the military? For a child that is not even your blood? Think again, my friend. Mr. Williams's jaw tightened. Emika, she is my daughter. Whether I picked her up from the road or she came from my loins, she is my daughter. Do you understand? And she is in need. If I don't help her, who will? I will sell the house. That is final. So he did. He sold the house that carried his wife's laughter, the house that carried Princess's first steps, the house that held his entire life. With tears in his eyes, he packed his belongings into an old gonna-must-go bag and moved into a rented one-room apartment in a dingy neighborhood. From the money, he kept only a little to pay rent and buy food, then handed the rest to Princess. My angel, he said as he pressed the money into her hands, take, use it to start a business. You and your husband build something for yourselves. Don't worry about me. Princess and her husband knelt before him, weeping. Daddy, thank you. I knew you would never disappoint me. God bless you, Daddy. Even the husband's voice cracked as he said, Thank you, Daddy. Thank you for saving us. But as they rejoiced, Mr. Williams moved his few belongings to his one-room apartment. Alone. The weeks that followed were brutal. He went out every day searching for work. He went to security companies, but they turned him down. Papa, you're too old, they said, almost embarrassed to look him in the eye. He went to construction companies. They laughed, pressed 2,000 naira into his palm, and sent him away. He applied to be a cleaner in his estate, but the residents shook their heads. No, Papa, you're like a grandfather to us. We can't let you sweep floors. Everywhere he turned, doors slammed shut. One morning, as he sat outside his apartment with his head in his hands, he overheard two men talking about a construction company fixing the main road nearby. They pay 3,000 daily, one of them said. Immediately, hope flickered in his chest. 3,000 naira. That could pay his small bills, buy his food. Without thinking, he stood, grabbed his walking stick, and limped to the site. When he arrived, he went straight to the manager. Please, he said firmly, I want to work. The manager looked at him, puzzled. Sir, are you here for your son? Your son wants to work? Mr. Williams straightened his back. No, me. I want to work. The man laughed bitterly. Sir, no. You're too old. You look like my grandfather. How can I give you a job? But Mr. Williams refused to back down. Don't look at my gray hair. I am strong. I served in the military for 30 years. I am still fit. Give me something light. I can fetch water, sweep, carry sand. Don't send me away. The man's eyes softened when he heard military. He even saluted. Officer, respect, sir, but social workers will frown if I employ you. Please, I need this job, Mr. Williams interrupted. His voice shook with desperation. Please, I won't survive without work. Reluctantly, the manager sighed. Okay, fetch water for the boys. That's all I can give you. So Mr. Williams started fetching water. That first day, he impressed everyone. The young laborers cheered him on. Old soldier! Old soldier! They shouted. He smiled faintly, sweat soaking his clothes, but inside his heart beamed with pride. At the end of the day, the manager pressed extra 3,000 into his hands. But the next day, fate struck. Mr. Williams came back early, eager to prove himself again. He carried buckets of water, his legs trembling but determined. Then on his way back from the stream, his foot slipped. He fell hard into the gutter, his ankle twisting with a sickening crack. His scream pierced the air. The young boys rushed to him. Papa! Papa! They pulled him out, his clothes torn, blood trickling down his elbow. The manager panicked. What have I done? He rushed Mr. Williams to the hospital. The doctor said his ankle was fractured but not too serious. Still, his leg was put in a cast. The manager pressed 20,000 into his hand. Papa, please don't work again. I beg you, if you need anything, call me, but don't come back here. Back in his small room, the pain consumed him. He couldn't even bathe himself. His old friend Amika came to help, but Amika was no cook. The food he made tasted like acid mixed with pepper. One day their jollof rice tasted like battery water, but they laughed through the bitterness and ate together, remembering their days in the barracks. Then one afternoon, as they forced down Amika's watery beans, Amika shook his head. Willie, you are not getting better. Why don't you go to Princess? At least let her take care of you. By the time you recover, you can come back and we'll look for small business together. Mr. Williams hesitated. He didn't want to burden his daughter. But after days of Amika's persistence, he gave in. He picked up his phone and called her. "Hello, Princess. Daddy's not getting better. My leg is still in pain. I'm not eating well. Can I come stay with you for a few weeks?" There was a long silence on the other end. Then her voice came hesitant. "Papa, let me talk to my husband first. I'll call you back." She never called that day. She didn't call the next either. Finally, he rang her again. "Princess, you said you would call back." "Oh, Papa, I forgot. Business has been hectic. Sorry, I spoke to my husband. He said you can come, but only for a few days. You know the house is small. We are still managing." His heart ached at her words, but Amika insisted he should go. Reluctantly, he packed his old clothes into a Ghana must go. Amika hailed a taxi for him, and Mr. Williams began the journey to his daughter's house. Mr. Williams arrived at his daughter's house in Lagos with joy that lit his wrinkled face like the morning sun. Though his knees ached and his ankle still throbbed from the fall at the construction site, he walked with pride, clutching a bag filled with snacks and little gifts he had bought at the park. He remembered how much Princess loved coconut candies when she was a little girl, and though she was now a grown woman with children of her own, his heart still leapt at the thought of surprising her. For his grandchildren, he had picked up biscuits, chin-chin, and 2 small toy cars. It wasn't much, but to Mr. Williams, they were treasures bought with love. When he got to the gate, the sound of laughter from inside gave him strength. He tapped gently and waited. The maid opened surprised, and before she could even announce him, 3 little bodies shot out from the living room like arrows. "Grandpa is here! Grandpa is here!" they screamed, hugging his frail legs and nearly knocking him off balance. Mr. Williams laughed, the sound carrying both joy and relief. At least the children had not forgotten him. At least his presence still brought someone happiness. The husband, tall and stiff, emerged from the doorway, arms crossed. His face bore none of the warmth it used to. He did not bend to touch the floor in greeting as he once did. He did not even offer a smile. He stood like a landlord assessing a tenant and muttered, "Welcome, sir. My wife told me you'll be staying a few days. How are you? How is your health?" His words were polite, but his tone was colder than Lagos Harmattan. Princess came next, her eyes bright but guarded. She hugged him briefly, almost stiffly, as though a wall had grown between them. "Papa, you're here. Welcome," she said, but her smile was thin, and her hands quickly slipped back into her wrapper. Mr. Williams noticed. He noticed everything. He had carried this woman in his arms when she was abandoned as a baby. He had rocked her through sleepless nights. He knew her body language the way a soldier knows the weight of his gun. That guarded expression was not the face of a daughter welcoming her father. Still, he pushed the thought aside. He told himself she was just tired from work, perhaps overwhelmed. He let the grandchildren drag him inside as if he were their prize. He was taken to a guest room where he dropped his bag and slowly began to unpack. But over the next few days, he noticed it, the coldness that lingered in the corners of the house like cobwebs. Princess was quieter than usual around him, her laughter softer, her questions fewer. The husband avoided his eyes. At night, Mr. Williams heard whispers through the thin walls. One evening, when he was returning from the bathroom, leaning heavily on his crutches, he paused outside their bedroom. The words that seeped through the door pierced him like bayonets. "He's not even your real father, Zeph. The way you run after him, the way you do things as if he's your god. It irritates me," the husband said. Mr. Williams froze, his chest tightening. Inside, Princess's voice rose, defensive yet pleading. "Honey, come on. He is my dad. Maybe not by blood, but he raised me. He gave me everything. Without him, we wouldn't even have this business. He's only here for a few days. Please, just be nice." The husband scoffed. "Fine, I'll be nice. But tell him not to cross the line. I don't want anybody messing up my space. You know how I like my space." Mr. Williams turned away slowly, his breath heavy. He leaned against the wall until his knees stopped trembling. The in-law that once knelt to greet him, that once called him father, now regarded him as a nuisance in his own daughter's house. He returned to his room quietly, swallowed the tears that rose, and said nothing. He noticed everything after that, how he was never invited to the dining table. While the family ate together at their lavish wooden table, Princess would quietly set a tray aside and call out, "Daddy, your food is in the room." He would hobble on his crutches to collect it and eat alone. Sometimes he could hear the children's laughter at the table, the clinking of plates, the family chatter, while he sat on a stool in the guest room with his lonely plate of rice. He saw how the husband sometimes walked past him without greeting. He noticed the sharp stares, the unsaid words. Then came the complaints. "Your father snores too much," the husband grumbled one night. "Since he came to this house, I have not slept well. Please tell him to tone it down, or he should go back to wherever he came from." Another time, after Mr. Williams had spent too long in the restroom, the man burst out, "Why does your father stay so long in the toilet? Can a human being use the toilet more than 3 times a day? Is his stomach made of rubber? He's supposed to make life easier, not make us miserable. Please tell him to reduce it." Princess tried to pacify him, but Mr. Williams overheard. He always overheard. His ears were old, but they still caught words meant to wound. Then came the meat incident. At dinner one evening, Princess served Mr. Williams 3 pieces of meat with his meal. The husband's eyes flared. "How can you serve him 3 meats? Me, the man of the house. How many do you give me? You give me 3. Then why are you giving the old man 3 too? This country is hard. Times are tough. Our business is just starting. You have to consider the economy." From that day on, the portions changed. Sometimes his food came with 1 thin piece of meat, other times just fish, sometimes nothing at all. At times it was an egg. Mr. Williams said nothing. He chewed the dry meals quietly and told himself it was only for a few days. By the 3rd week, he had almost become the house help. In the mornings, they left him with a small plate of food and told him to manage. Sometimes he cooked noodles for himself when the hunger was too much. Princess never checked on him. She was always busy with her husband, their shop, or the children. Even when she was home, she never asked how his leg was healing. They never sat to talk the way they once did. He told himself it was marriage. Marriage had stolen his daughter from him. On weekends, they left him with the children. "Papa, please take care of them. We're going to the shop," they would say, handing him full responsibility despite his clutches. Mr. Williams never complained. He dressed his grandchildren, fed them, played with them, even beat them lightly when they misbehaved. He loved them too much to say no. "Grandpa, we love you. Grandpa, I hope you will stay longer. Don't go yet," they would say, and his heart swelled. They were his joy, the only reason he hadn't packed his bag and left. Sometimes in their excitement, he taught them light military drills. He would shout, "Soldiers!" and they would respond, "Yes, Commander." He would order, "Attention!" and they would stand stiff, giggling. "At ease!" and they would collapse in laughter. They told their friends proudly that their grandfather was a retired soldier. It made him proud too. But that joy never reached the eyes of his son-in-law. The man grew more irritated. He whispered more complaints into Princess's ears, and she always took his side. Mr. Williams kept quiet. Then one afternoon, disaster struck. The children had returned from school and eaten. Mr. Williams had played with them in the living room before they ran into their room. He thought they were playing with toys, but they were practicing the drills he had taught them. Innocently, joyfully, until the youngest slipped. A sharp scream split the house. Mr. Williams dropped his crutch and stumbled as fast as his frail legs would carry him. He found her writhing on the floor, clutching her ankle in agony. "What happened? What happened?" he asked, panic in his voice. "Grandpa, we were practicing the drills you taught us. She slipped and twisted her ankle," the eldest cried. Mr. Williams's heart shattered. With shaking hands, he grabbed his phone and called Princess. She rushed home, storming through the door like a hurricane. She didn't glance at him, didn't even look at his worried face. She shouted, "Papa, what were you doing before the children had this accident?" "My daughter, I am sorry. I was only teaching them the drills we used in the military just for fun." "Papa, how can you be so careless? How can you be teaching children your foolish military days? Keep your nonsense to yourself. Now look at what has happened," she screamed. She whisked her daughter to the hospital, her husband following with cold, condemning stares. Mr. Williams sank into the sofa, trembling. That evening, they returned with the child. The doctor said it was a minor sprain, nothing fatal. But the anger in Princess's eyes was fire. Her husband's was ice. They had already decided. That night, Princess entered his room. "Papa, I can't believe you can be this irresponsible. How can I leave my children with you and you let this happen? What if it was worse? What if it was fatal? Please don't cause problems between me and my husband. First thing tomorrow morning, you are leaving. My daughter, my legs have not even healed. I cannot work. I cannot go home alone. Please let me stay a little longer." But she was firm. "Since you came here, my husband and I have fought non-stop. I don't want issues. Please leave tomorrow morning." Mr. Williams sat on his bed, tears brimming. He remembered when his legs were strong, when he could walk without pain. Now he was a liability, a shadow of himself. The next morning, the son-in-law entered his room, cold and sharp. "Are you ready? I need to drop you at the park before work." No breakfast was offered. Mr. Williams packed his clothes silently into the Ghana must-go. His son-in-law yanked the bag from his frail hands and shoved it into the car boot. Princess stood at the doorway, arms folded, face hard. "Papa, bye-bye. See you," she said. At the park, the son-in-law thrust N5000 into his hand. "For transport," he said, then drove off without looking back. Mr. Williams sat there for a long time, silent. His only daughter had rejected him. He blamed himself. He should never have taught the drills. He should have kept quiet. When he finally got home to his tiny one-room apartment, he called his old friend. "Willie, you're back?" the man asked. "Yes, I'm back," Mr. Williams said, his voice heavy. "What happened? Did they not take care of you?" "There was an accident," Mr. Williams whispered. "My daughter sent me away. I was teaching the grandchildren some drills and one sprained her ankle. The husband said I must go, so here I am." His friend slammed his hand on the table. "But that was an accident. Nobody's fault. Why would they send you away like that? Are they even human?" Mr. Williams shook his head slowly. "She is my angel. In my eyes, she can do no wrong." But days passed, weeks passed, and Princess never called. She never sent a message. She never checked if he was alive. Mr. Williams sat in his small room, ankle swollen, living off his friend's terrible cooking, abandoned by the one person he had given everything for. Days had passed since Mr. Williams, the old soldier, was packaged like sardines and way-billed back to his tiny apartment. Princess didn't call once to check on him or to ask if he got home safely. It was complete radio silence from her end. The silence was heavy, louder than gunfire in Mr. Williams' heart. Each day he sat in his cramped room, his ankle swollen, his frail body aching. But what pained him most was not the wound in his leg. It was the wound in his soul. Sometimes out of habit, he picked up his phone and dialed her number. The call would ring, but she never picked. Other times he sent short messages, simple words like, "My angel, how are you? How are the children?" But there was no reply. Days turned into weeks, and weeks quietly bled into months. His only friend, an old military comrade, was now the one feeding him. Together, they cooked meals that tasted more like engine oil than stew. The old friend was no cook. Sometimes the rice came out half raw, sometimes the soup too salty, sometimes tasteless. But still they ate, laughing bitterly at their situation, reminiscing about the days when they carried rifles and commanded respect. "Willie," his friend would sigh, "you have become an abandoned project, a rotten tomato tossed out after serving its purpose. That girl, I don't know." But Mr. Williams never cursed Princess. Even in his pain, he called her my angel. He justified her silence. She is busy. She is tired. She is overwhelmed. Marriage can change a person. But deep down in the chambers of his old soldier's heart, he knew the truth. He was no longer wanted. Then just when he thought life had abandoned him completely, calamity struck elsewhere. One morning, word spread across Lagos like wildfire. Princess's shop and warehouse had caught fire in the middle of the night. By the time firefighters arrived, the inferno had swallowed almost everything. More than 70% of her goods had turned to ashes. The once busy shop with shining glass doors was now a blackened ruin. They cried. They wailed. The husband blamed the wife. "Why didn't you unplug the freezer before we left? Why are you always careless?" he shouted. The wife fired back, eyes red with tears. "And you? Were you not the one who left the air conditioner running? You don't listen when I talk. Now see what has happened." They blamed themselves until their voices cracked. But the calamity had already done its work. The proud family that once boasted of wealth, the couple who once dined with their heads high, were now dragging wheelbarrows to sell whatever little stock remained. They borrowed from neighbors, begged creditors for more time, and swallowed pride daily just to move on. It was during this low season that fate played its cruel trick. One afternoon, the husband walked into a supermarket to buy groceries for the family. He had barely entered when his eyes caught a familiar face. He blinked. He rubbed his eyes. Could it be? No, it couldn't be. Not that miserable old man they had tossed aside. Not Mr. Williams. The man in front of him was dressed in rich, flowing agbada, the kind only wealthy men wore. His skin glowed, his steps were firm, and his silver hair was neatly trimmed. For a moment, the husband thought it was a dream. He moved closer, pretending to check the shelves. When he got close enough, his jaw almost dropped to the floor. It was Mr. Williams. Panic seized him. He quickly ducked behind a stack of cereal boxes, hiding like a thief. He didn't want to be seen. He didn't want to face the man they had discarded like refuse. But Mr. Williams had already sighted him. The old soldier only smiled faintly, a smile that said, "I see you, but I won't chase you." He continued shopping, picking items with the calm dignity of a man at peace. When he finished, he stepped outside, where a sleek black Range Rover Jeep was waiting. He entered it with ease and the driver pulled away. The husband's eyes bulged, his mouth hanging so wide open that if flies had been holding a family meeting nearby, they would have chosen his mouth as their venue. He almost drooled from shock. This cannot be. That old man? That liability? Driving a Range Rover? He muttered. He carried his shock home, rushing into the living room. "Honey, can you imagine who I saw today?" he said breathlessly. "Who?" Princess asked, tired from sorting through their ruined goods. "Your father." "My father." "Yes, and let me tell you, that man is not poor. If you see the agbada he wore, you would faint. He even drove off in a black Range Rover. Your father is living large." Princess's eyes widened. "My dad? How? Did he win a lottery?" "My dear, I don't know. But one thing is clear. That man is not suffering. You need to call him. We need him now. Let him give us money to rebuild the business. Please call him." That night, guilt and desperation twisted Princess's heart. She picked up her phone and dialed her father's number. The first time he saw her name and did not pick. The second time he ignored it again. She called several times, her palms sweating. Still, he didn't answer. The next day she tried again. This time Mr. Williams picked. "Papa, how are you? How have you been?" she said, her voice shaking with forced cheer. There was silence for a moment. Then his voice came, calm but cold. "My princess, I am fine. How is the family?" That was all. No excitement, no fatherly warmth, just polite distance. Tears pricked Princess's eyes. "Papa, the family is not fine. Papa, things are bad. Business is gone. Fire gutted our shop. We lost everything. NEPA even cut our light for owing. My husband is drowning in debt. Papa, your daughter is suffering. Please help me." She poured out her complaints bitterly, detailing debts, ruined goods, and the hunger gnawing at her children. Mr. Williams said nothing. His mind wandered back to the day he sold his house, the very house he had built with sweat from his youth, and gave her millions to start that same business. He remembered the way they had treated him when he went to stay with them, how the husband mocked him for eating too much meat, for snoring, for going to the toilet. He remembered being cast out like a beggar. He asked only, "How are my grandchildren? Are they fine?" "They are fine, Papa," she replied weakly. "Where are you now, Papa?" "Where do you live?" she asked. "In your city, my daughter. I moved here 6 months ago." Her voice trembled. "Really? Why? What happened?" Mr. Williams sighed, but his voice carried a subtle triumph. "Ah, my level has changed, my daughter. Remember my wife's younger brother that I sponsored to Canada? He is now a big man. He bought me a house and gave me a car. He even took me to the doctors, who fixed my leg. I am healed now. He fought for my military gratuity, and I was finally paid. So I moved to Lagos." Princess gasped. "Papa, you are living in Lagos? Where?" "In Ikoyi, my daughter." "Papa, can I come and see you?" Yes, my house is open. You are my daughter. You can come anytime. The very next morning, Princess packed her 3 children, dressed them to look hungry and broke, and hurried to Ikoyi. When she arrived, her jaw dropped. The house was beautiful, a small mansion with polished marble floors, manicured lawns, and a maid who welcomed them with juice. Her children ran about in awe, shouting, "Grandpa lives in a palace!" Mr. Williams descended the stairs dressed in shining white native attire, his silver head glowing like wisdom itself. "Papa, you are living well, oh, and your leg has healed." He smiled. "Yes, my daughter. That young man took good care of me. He even helped me get my gratuity." She nodded, then quickly shifted to her purpose. "Papa, things are bad for my husband and me. Our shop burnt down. We lost more than half of our investment. We are swimming in debt. Please, Papa, help us. Give us a soft loan to rebuild." Mr. Williams looked at her for a long moment. Then he called out gently, "My grandchildren, my pumpkins, go upstairs. Let me talk to your mummy." When they left, he turned to her. His eyes softened, but his voice was firm. "My princess, I love you. You will always be my daughter. But you have disappointed me. If your husband had not seen me in the supermarket, you would never have called. You only come when you need something. When I came to you broken, you and your husband treated me worse than a slave. He said I snored too much. He counted the pieces of meat in my soup. He mocked me for going to the toilet. Yet I said nothing. But today, you come because you need money." "Papa, it's not like that," she cried. He raised a hand. "It is exactly like that. And let me tell you what you just missed." He leaned back, eyes distant. "In the year 2002, Mr. Williams began, his eyes misty as though he could still see the dusty parade grounds of his youth. "My friends and I made some money. There were some foreign delegates who came to Nigeria for peace talks. Our regiment was chosen to escort them. It was not an easy task, but we did it with honor. When they were leaving, they gave each of us $10,000. Back then, it was not considered too much compared to what money is today. Some of my friends ran wild with theirs. Some bought flashy clothes, others bought land without planning. Some even used it to marry new wives. They spent it quickly, without thinking of tomorrow. But your mother, my wife, God bless her soul, she told me something different. She said, 'Willie, don't eat with both hands. Use this money for the future.' She told me to buy shares, and so I did. Just as some of the white men had taught us in those days, I invested in shares, stocks, and bonds. I locked it away in a secure account that even I could not easily touch. It was meant for the future, for our children. But as God would have it, your mother and I could not have any children of our own. For years we waited, we prayed, we cried, but no child came. I told myself that when the time was right, I would give that money to you. You, my princess, would be my child. You would be my inheritance. That money was your future, your safety net, the umbrella that would cover you when the rain of life poured. That $10,000 has grown, my daughter, grown beyond anything I could have imagined. Today it is worth $5 million. $5 million, and it was all for you. But his voice cracked. His hands trembled as he looked at her with tear-brimmed eyes. But since you and your husband have shown me that you are not trustworthy, I could not risk putting that blessing in your hands. I have willed it all to the orphanage, to children who have no father, no mother, no roof. They need it. You and your husband do not. You had your chance, my daughter. You threw it away." Princess collapsed to her knees. "Papa, what about me? What about my children? Am I not your daughter?" "You are my daughter," he said quietly, "but I cannot give you anything. My will is written. This house, this car, everything will go to the orphanage. You and your husband must build your own empire. If you need food, advice, or someone to talk to, come to me. But if you need money, don't call me." She wept bitterly, begging, but his decision was final. In the end, he gave her $100,000 for transport and waved them off. She cried all the way home. That evening, Mr. Williams sat in his lavish living room, staring at the chandeliers above. His heart was heavy, but his mind was clear. He thought of the parking lot, of the rejection, of the fire, of everything he had endured. He whispered to himself, I have done enough for her. It is time for her to stand on her own feet. The people who need me, I will help, but not her, not anymore. And with that, the old soldier finally rested his weary heart, knowing he had made peace with his past and secured his legacy where it truly mattered. Thank you for watching. Have you called your parents today? If you haven't, then you should call them. Check up on them and show them how much you love and appreciate all their efforts and hard work. Most times that's enough to put a big bright smile on their faces. If you're still watching this story up to this point, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a heart in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you still haven't done so by now. See you in the next one.